Whoa, how much do you think all these ingredients cost me? A common complaint I get about keto is that the ingredients to make the recipes are expensive. $13 for a bag of sugar-free sweetener? Yikes. On top of that, some of these recipes that require you to buy all of these ingredients, you might only use that ingredient one time. What the heck am I gonna do with all this protein powder KetoFocus told me to buy? But if you stick to the basics, I can save you some money. And not to worry, if you come across an ingredient that's in a recipe but you don't wanna have to buy it, like egg white powder, well, I'm gonna show you what you can use instead so you don't have to purchase it. Keto flour. Notice it didn't specifically say almond or coconut or cricket flour. For the most part, you could just buy one keto approved flour from this list and use them in all of your recipes. The problem is that they don't all substitute one for one. You need to know the conversion or look them up if you're going to substitute one flour for another. Like lupin flour in place of almond flour, you're going to want half the amount. 1 cup of almond flour is a half a cup of lupin flour. And almond flour in place of coconut flour, you're going to want to add 4 times the amount. So a 1/4 cup of coconut flour is roughly equal to 1 cup of almond flour. Coconut flour is very absorbent. That's why you don't need that much of it to get the same results. This is also why it's usually the cheapest, but not always a favorite because a lot of people don't like the coconut flavor. That's why I use a lot of almond flour in my recipes. It's usually the next cheapest and most widely available. If you're gonna be baking, of course you're gonna need a keto approved sweetener. With all the different types and brands and variations on the market, if you're not careful, you can easily end up with 10 bags of different types of keto sweeteners. Not only are there different kinds of sugar-free sweeteners from allulose to stevia, erythritol, monk fruit, there's blends like erythritol monk fruit and allulose monk fruit. But there's also different forms and variations like granulated sweeteners, brown sugar-free substitutes, powdered sweeteners, and liquids too. Talk about overwhelming. So what do you buy? I recommend sticking with a granulated blended sweetener like erythritol and monk fruit, which is what Lakanto is. I also recommend Truvia Sweet Complete, which is a erythritol stevia blend. The blended sweeteners tend to be more balanced. They're not overly sweet. They don't have a bitter aftertaste or that weird cooling sensation just because they're blended. The good news is that most recipes call for granulated sweeteners, and if they don't, you could usually just swap it in place. If you plan on making chocolate chip cookies like my keto chocolate chip cookies that taste like Toll House cookies, then you're gonna need to invest in some sugar-free chocolate chips. But besides making chocolate chip cookies or chocolate chip ice cream, you can melt down the chocolate and make ganache, add it to softened butter to make chocolate frosting, and use it as a coating for ice cream bars, strawberries, and candies. There's lots of uses for sugar-free chocolate. There's also a couple different brands of chocolate chips too. I usually like to stick with the dark chocolate ones because they have less carbs. Besides these absolute must-haves, what are the items that are nice to have but you don't necessarily need? Before I share those with you and what you can use in their place, let's make dinner with Green Chef, who is my sponsor for today's video. I love this meal kit company because these ingredients come pre-portioned, often pre-prepared, and all in this convenient package that is shipped right to me each week. So there's no food waste or wasted ingredients because they only give me what I need to make for each meal. I'm always discovering exciting flavors and unique ingredients, so eating well never gets boring with these chef-created meals. Green Chef helps me eat clean and live a healthy lifestyle because it provides delicious, nutrition-approved recipes with ingredients that are delivered right to my door. They send clean ingredients like organic fruits and vegetables, limited processed ingredients, and they don't use any artificial colorings or sweeteners, making it easy for me to eat clean, quality foods that I actually feel good about. If you want to try it, use my code 60KetoFocus to get 60% off plus free shipping. Go to greenchef.com for more details. I love getting these meals delivered week after week. Not only do I get to try new recipes, but I'm able to get into a clean routine, build healthy habits without sacrificing on time because most of these meals don't take long to make at all. Again, go to greenchef.com and use my code 60KetoFocus to get 60% off plus free shipping. Back to this egg white powder. Now this is nice to have, but you don't really need it. It does help get your breads and muffins puffy and fluffy, but you could really just substitute with egg whites too. You're just gonna have to lower the amount of liquids that you use in a recipe. Protein powder. Great for adding structure and building a protein matrix that acts similar to gluten in some recipes. I have found that in some of my recipes, I can actually get away with substituting the protein powder with coconut flour or even egg white protein powder. Arrowroot powder, not really for baking. This is my go-to thickener when I'm making sauces or soups. It has 7 times the thickening power as regular all-purpose flour, so you really don't need that much of it. It does have carbs, but since you're only adding a little bit, usually across several servings, it's not that much. Just look it up. Okay, I'll look this up for the keto Karens out there. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of arrowroot powder is only 2.6 carbs. And usually that's all I use in a recipe, but then that's spread around several servings, like 4 to 8 servings. So Keto Karen, go home. Xanthan gum has many uses. Some use it as a thickener. I don't really care to use it as a thickener. I like the arrowroot powder better, just because if you add too much of this, it can make your dish super slimy. You can also use it for structure, added support to help hold things together, like if you're making donuts or something like that. But there's better choices out there rather than this. Other options for thickeners, you could use heavy cream, cream cheese, and egg yolk. And if you're using it for structure or support, just use protein powder or egg whites or egg white powder. If you want caramely flavors in your cookies or baked goods, you have to get some sugar-free brown sugar sweetener. It's preferably one that packs, like Swerve or Wholesome Yum brand. But honestly, most of the time you could just substitute with a granulated sweetener. But if you really want that caramely flavor, well then you can just make your own sugar-free brown sugar substitute. That's such a mouthful. There's lots of recipes on the web that show you how to do it. You take granulated sweetener, add a little hint of molasses, and you got brown sugar-free sweetener. Same with the powdered sweeteners. You really don't need to buy them. You could easily make them by just pulverizing the granulated sweetener into a food processor or blender. But I don't like to do that. I just buy it because ain't nobody got time to pulverize anything. I like things pre-pulverized. Also, this is not powdered sugar. It's sugar-free powdered sweetener. Amazon, they don't have keto labels. Pork panko. This is the keto replacement for breadcrumbs. I use this in meatloafs, meatballs, coatings, or breadings for things like chicken tenders, chicken parmesan, mozzarella sticks. It's just ground up pork rinds, and you can easily make your own by just pulverizing them in a food processor and blender. But like I said, ain't nobody got time to pulverize something that can come pre-pulverized. That's such a hard word to say. Pulverize. Oat fiber. I don't really know of a replacement for oat fiber because it's pretty unique. It's 0 carbs. It's an insoluble fiber that's made from ground up oat husks. It helps with the texture of your baked goods. It gives them a better crumb texture, and it actually gives an underlying oat flavor, which is key if you're making oatmeal cookies or anything that you just need a hint of oatness. You like my label on this one? It's not old-fashioned oats, it's oat fiber. Not to be mistaken for oat flour either, they're different. Oat flour actually has carbs. So see, you don't actually need all these fancy ingredients to make keto recipes. Just stick with the basics. And if you want to know how to make my most amazing keto chocolate chip cookies that I showed you earlier, well then just click right here because I'll show you how.